Good early afternoon. We are live. I'm Andy Andrews. You've joined us for the Tuesday edition of the Blue Plate Special, where we have observations and questions and silliness sometimes. Okay, probably most of the time. Anyway, we are broadcasting live from Wisdom Harbor Studios in Orange Beach, Alabama. That's right. If you've just happened upon us, we're in Alabama. So there's something more than football that comes out of this state. Actually, if you set somebody who'd never been to Alabama, you set somebody down in Orange Beach and said, "What state are you in?" They wouldn't say Alabama. I don't think. Just because I think people's vision of Alabama is not what we have here. But there are a lot of places in the state of Alabama that you could do the same thing. Because we have mountains, we have farmland, we have white sand beaches, we have waterfalls. I mean, it's just a lot of crazy stuff. Whereas, as you know, in Washington, D.C., they only have crime. I saw this morning, Matt, did you see that President Trump has federalized the Capitol Police and brought in the National Guard because he's vowing to reduce the number of criminals in Washington, D.C.? I think he could have done that just by sending Congress home, probably. Anyway, he's meeting with Putin and Zelensky, and they're going to meet in Alaska? Or is he just meeting Putin in Alaska?
I don't know.
But he's going to meet. Putin said he wanted the war to be over. Trump said he was going to end the war the first day of his presidency, and they're still fighting. And I think I know how to end this war and end it with some certainty, end it with an adaptation to our culture that we love pay-per-view, that we seem to love reality television kind of stuff. So here's what I suggest. I suggest that we pick a date and advertise it, and we'll have ESPN broadcast it. And the sticking point seems to be territories. I think that they quit fighting today, Zelensky and Putin quit fighting today, if the territories that are disputed were settled in an amicable way. But I don't know that there's anything amicable about these guys. And so I say that we set a date, we dig a big hole in the ground somewhere and pour water in it for several days. So it's a big mud hole. Then Putin and Zelensky have to wear those Speedo swimsuits. You know, those nasty looking things that you see fat guys wear sometimes. And I think that we give them each a baseball bat and we send them into the mud hole, and whoever comes out won the war. I think that sounds good. That's my suggestion to Trump. I don't know if I can get that to him in time to make that suggestion for them, but I think that would be a good suggestion. Who do you think would win? The comedian or the psychopath?
And would Sarah Palin be able to see that mud hole from her house?
Probably. Marcy Taylor, good morning from hot Richland, Washington. Going to be 100 today. You guys have the weirdest weather. I mean, so it was like cool and nice last week, and now it's 100 degrees. Dina Kilpatrick, hey. You shared. Shanda Danner, how are you doing? What do you mean? Of course you're late. You're not late. You're right on time. You're here. Martin Simmons, hey, you saw the podcast with my pastor, and I appreciate that. Yeah, the podcast just came out today with my pastor, Ben Ragsdale, and it's called Church in a Bar, because we go to church at the Floribama. So if you're curious about that, definitely watch this podcast. Paul Brennan, arm wrestling. We could add alligators. Yes, we could add alligators in the mud pit. I think that would be a good surprise. You know, it's like right before they go into the mud pit with baseball bats and their Speedos, then whoever's calling it, we'll have Joe Rogan call it. Joe Rogan will call the match, and right before they go in the mud hole, he'll say, as an added bonus, we have added an alligator in here. He is covered under the mud. You won't be able to see him, but whichever one of you steps on him is going to be at a disadvantage. Yeah, that would be good. This is getting good now. This is getting good. And how much could we charge for that? Pay-per-view, how much could we charge? Yeah, in studio audience, would you, let me see how high I can go on you, that you would legitimately pay for this, okay? And I'm looking at a guy. I'm not looking at his wife, because only guys would probably pay. Would you pay $50? Would you pay $100? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna stop it there, because I'd pay $100 for that too. And so, if you look at the population of the world, Matt, there's 8 billion people in the world. Yeah, are you ready to do some calculation?
No.
Come on.
The math again.
Have you got your calculator? Okay. There's 8 billion people in the world. Now, let's just say that only 4 billion have televisions. And even if somebody has a television but they haven't got much money, they would pool together to get the $100. So let's say that reduces it to 3 billion times $100. How much is that?
I think that would be 300 billion, wouldn't it?
300 billion. I think 300 billion would be a good amount of money that we could add to our national debt, since we are broadcasting it to the world, ESPN. And we're not going to give France any money, not going to give Australia any money, not going to give England any money, or Canada. We're going to keep it for ourselves. We'll give a little bit. We'll give some to Israel. We'll give some money to Israel. We'll give some money to Norway. They seem to stay out of things. We like them okay. Iceland. You don't ever hear about Iceland causing trouble. Let's give Iceland give them a couple of $1 million. So, anyway, okay, Dave Huco, how are you doing, Dave? Shanda Danner said, I saw the talk about the Floribama Church. Very cool. And Dave Huco from up in Minnesota. It's probably already 30 degrees there. And yes, I do have the Mayberry car. I have the squad car from the second season. And I should show it at the car show at the wharf in April. Okay, I won't do that. And the reason I won't do that is because that car show, it bothers me, because I'll walk down there and I'll see people for 3 days sitting in lawn chairs beside an old car. And I don't know what they do other than sit in a lawn chair. And I cannot sit in a lawn chair for 3 days. I just can't do it. I mean, you want me to drive it around for 3 days? I could probably do that. Whew. Margaret Davis Holt, hello from Northeast Mississippi. Welcome to the Pentagon office. Lunchtime at the Pentagon. You guys watching. And I say you guys, knowing there are probably some ladies there too. I don't need any emails. Whew. Paul says it still doesn't touch the national debt. Yeah, I know it doesn't touch the national debt. But it'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it? The war would be over, it'd be fun to watch, and we'd have some hundreds, billions to play with. Okay, let's get to the point. Oh, I got another thing. 2 books that I want to tell you about today before we really get started. One book is The Tale of Two Seasons by Paul Westphal. It is a go-to book for me right now. I love that book. A Tale of Two Seasons by Paul Westphal. Paul is the Hall of Fame basketball player that played and coached for the Phoenix Suns. And Paul passed away a couple of years ago. I got to know Paul and his wife, Cindy. And Cindy sent me this book. That they found this book written after Paul passed away. And when she sent it to me, she said, I don't know if it's really that good. Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, it's great. It's great. So, Paul Westphal, A Tale of Two Seasons. And the other one is Andrew Murata gave me this book. It's a romance of self-discovery. And it's named There's a Hole in My Sidewalk. And this book is old. Now, let me tell you how I know the book is old, because the 3 endorsers on the book, 3 celebrities that endorse this book. Number 1, John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. How long ago was that? Other one is Rex Reed. Remember Rex Reed, the film critic? I mean, he was way before Siskel and Ebert. And the other one is Carol Burnett. So how about that? But I want to read you the title story. And this is just it's great. The title story is called An Autobiography, right? This is an autobiography is when you're writing it yourself. You're writing a biography of yourself. So an autobiography in 5 short chapters. Have I showed you this, Matt? You're going to love this. All right. An autobiography in 5 short chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in this same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. Isn't that great? I just love that. It's called There's a Hole in My Sidewalk. Thank you, Andrew Murata, for that. All right, now, I have done some research. I was inspired by my friend Joe Camp, who made the movie Benji and its sequels. And I'll tell you that story a little later, but the story of how he made that movie, it just still blows my mind. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a list of the 12 return on investment movies of all time. I mean, you know, we all have the chance at some point to pitch in on stuff and you know, be a part of something. And, you know, there's all the stories about if I'd have put $10,000 in Apple stock, you know, it'd be worth 50 gamillion now, you know, whatever. We've all heard those stories, but, you know, either we don't have $10,000 put in or we didn't think. I mean, I remember somebody tell me, you know, what's the name? The Mercedes so-and-so used to cost $9,000. I'm like, yeah, when did it cost $9,000? So I was like in 1970 something, and I'm like, yeah, in 1970 something, I didn't have $9,000. You know, if you'd have told me, hey, these Mercedes are selling for $9,000, all I could have done was run up and down the street and go, ain't that cheap? Because I couldn't have done anything about it. Judy Hess, hey. Gonna see you soon. Judy Hess, a third of the Martins. If you have not seen or heard the Martins in concert, go on YouTube, look up the Martins, and see Judy and her sister and brother. They're unbelievable. All right, so return on investment movies. 1979's Mad Max. You remember that? Mel Gibson? 1979, Mad Max. It was a clear box office winner. It was made on the cheap for the equivalent of $250,000 in U.S. currency. This Australian action drama earned $100 million. 400 times its budget. Mad Max. That would have been a movie to invest in. 1978. Halloween. I've never seen that movie, but I know all about it. John Carpenter helped change horror movies. I'll just say he just changed them. Halloween cost $300,000 to make, but it would end up making $70 million. More than 200 times its budget. That's a profitable movie. In 2004, there was Super Size Me. You remember when people were watching Super Size Me and talking about Super Size Me? This was made by a guy named Morgan Spurlock. And this documentary, it was really a documentary, a movie form, but it helped popularize the stunt documentary. Morgan Spurlock ate only McDonald's for a month to see what it did to his health. It got a lot of people talking, changed some minds about fast food, and it basically ended the supersize option at McDonald's. I mean, they stopped it after this movie came out. And the options everywhere like that went away. Oh, and the documentary made a ton of money. It had a budget of $65,000, which included Big Macs. Okay? Had a budget of $65,000 and earned $22 million. Now you think this ordinary guy who has this idea to just film himself and talk about eating McDonald's for a dang month and put it together, $65,000. He probably had friends that said, here's $1,000, here's $500. Made $22 million on that. Unfortunately, he died of cancer when he was 53 years old. Not saying the food had anything to do with it, but he left $22 million to his grandkids. 1974. Now, this is an odd one. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was positioned and promoted as being based on a true story, but it wasn't. Tobe Hooper made this film, and it was made on the cheap, which you can do when your biggest special effect is a chainsaw. The movie was made for less than $140,000, and some estimates go as low as $80,000 to make this movie. It made $31 million at the box office. Made for 80 to whatever thousand, and $31 million. That investment and the influence of generations of horror directors, to come, it was a very profitable movie that would inspire this wide range of films. On top of that, now let me tell you where I give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a prompt. I think this is probably one of the top 10 movie titles of all time. I mean, when you see some movie titles, Prism, The Diamond, Jewel of the Nile. I mean, it's like, what is this about? But Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know where it is. You know what it is. And so I think it's one of the top 10 movie titles of all time. But also all time is the subtitle of the movie, which is probably better than the title. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who will survive and what will be left of them? All right, 1999. All the marketing claimed that the Blair Witch Project was a documentary, not a work of fiction. The marketing also claimed that the film footage had been found in the attic of an abandoned house. The actors, all unknown, were claimed to have been real people who were missing and presumed dead. Of course, it helped that the internet was starting to grow significantly in 1999, helping to market the movie as well. In time, though, it would become clear that this was a work of fiction, though in truth, the whole witch part should have been a giveaway. Nevertheless, the Blair Witch Project had a budget of $800,000 and brought in $248 million. Whew. All right, 1980. What if you took the lessons of Halloween but turned them into something nastier, more violent, and gorier? Well, you don't necessarily get a classic, but you do get a big hit. And another horror movie that made a lot more than its budget. What is it with these horror movies? Friday the 13th became the epitome of a slasher movie in a series of that weird genre. The director was Sean Cunningham, who bought an ad in Variety magazine in 1979, basically telling studios, hey, did you like Halloween? Okay, then check out Friday the 13th. So a young Kevin Bacon also had a role in this movie. Friday the 13th was made for $550,000 and made $60 million. Do you like horror movies?
No, I liked them more when I was kind of younger, but now I'm just like, why? Why would I want to watch something like that? I guess that's how most people are, when you're like a teenager or something. It's kind of like,
Like
ooh,
when I was a teenager.
but no, not anymore.
I don't like them. I was accidentally lured into a horror movie one time, and that did it for the rest of my life. I went to see a double feature at the theater in Jackson, Alabama, where my grandparents lived, and you could walk to the theater back when you'd let your kids out of your house without your eyes on them. We could walk to the theater from my main granddad's house. It was like maybe a quarter of a mile, sidewalks. And so I walked down, paid my 50 cents I was probably 9, 10 years old. Paid my 50 cents for the double feature. I enjoyed that first feature. I can't remember what it was, but I've never forgotten the second one because they had an intermission between the movies. I went out, got some more popcorn, some more Coke. I went, sat back down, and the movie was black and white. And it was... now I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the movie. I can't believe I can't remember the name of the movie. It had Bruce Dern in it, Betty Davis. Oh, I know. It's Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. You ever heard of this? Whew. The movie started with a big party in a mansion house, and it was like, seemed like it was set back in the 1800s, everybody dressed up and partying, and then the camera takes you outside to this gazebo, and then you see a guy coming out of the house. This was Bruce Dern coming out of the house, and he's looking furtively, and he goes to the gazebo, and the camera comes in on him, which that should have been a clue. Something's fixing to jump out at me, right? It comes in on him, and he hears something, and he turns and he goes, "Charlotte? Charlotte?" And suddenly the music screams, and a hand with a meat cleaver comes down and goes, "What?" And it chops his hand off right here, and he holds up the stump, and it's squirting blood, and he's going, "Wah!" And this meat cleaver keeps coming down on him, and that music's going, and I just like, I don't think I fainted, but I slowly got out of my seat. I left my popcorn and my Coke, and I had to walk back to Mama and Granddad's house in the dark. Stupid movie. And I have not seen a horror movie since. I have not seen one since. I mean, what? Oh yeah, here's $10. Scare the life out of me. Are you kidding? What do I do that for? It's like saying, well, I don't like coffee. Oh, well, you got to acquire a taste for it. I don't like it. Yeah, but you need to acquire a taste for it. Wait a minute, I don't like it. Why would I want to acquire a taste for something I don't like? I don't like this, so I'll just eat a lot of it until I like it. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, here, let me give you $10. Just give me a heart attack. Whew. I don't like horror movies. 1973. Star Wars made George Lucas an icon. How did Lucas earn the money to have the chance to bring his space opera to life? Because a few years earlier, George Lucas had another big success with American Graffiti. Now, this is the movie that laid the groundwork for the television show Happy Days. American Graffiti is a coming-of-age tale. It's set in 1962, and the whole movie is just built upon driving around in cars, trying to get some boy-girl action going, and listening to Wolfman Jack. That's kind of it. But in the cast, you'll find, among others, Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, plus a small role for a carpenter named Harrison Ford. American Graffiti struck a chord with audiences, though. It was made for $770,000, and it made $140 million and earned 5 Oscar nominations. After that, George Lucas had enough money to film his next movies in space. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of money. All right, 2004. Napoleon Dynamite. Now, we talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre being a great title. Napoleon Dynamite is like the worst title I've ever heard for a movie. I mean, this was a title that could have turned people off. You know, I mean, you just hear, you want to go see Napoleon Dynamite? No. What's it about? Couple of ugly kids. Yeah. I mean, Napoleon Dynamite, it featured a cast of largely unattractive, unknown actors. In fact, there were a lot of data points that seemed to show Napoleon Dynamite might be a total financial disaster. Instead, it became one of the biggest cult classics of the 2000s and one of the comedy movies that made 100 times their budget. Jared Hess shot this film in Idaho, where he lived, and cast his college buddy, John Hader, in the lead role. It cost $400,000 to make and made $46.1 million for a couple of college kids. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, that came out when I was 13. That was a big deal.
You know, Austin and Adam loved that movie. They loved that movie. All right, 2009. Here's another horror movie. And this one just blows my mind. This one, it was called Paranormal Activity. And it basically built the career of the producer, Jason Blum, and also kicked off a series of imitators that tried to make a ton of money off basically no budget. But it was with Paranormal Activity that movie studios seemed to recognize the fact that horror movie fans are less discerning than fans of other genres, and that the movies tend to be pretty cheap to make. Paranormal Activity was another movie that claimed to have found the film footage hidden away in some unknown location. The whole movie was shot with a stationary home video camera. Seriously, it could not be more low budget. The initial production cost $15,000. Paramount signed on, but they asked for a bit of a bump up in quality and a new ending, which drove the cost up to $215,000. Paranormal Activity was a hit. It even generated several sequels. But remember, the original movie was made for a total of $215,000, and at the box office, it made $194 million. Paranormal Activity is the scary poster child for movies that make way more than their budget. Whew. All right, 1968. Night of the Living Dead. Maybe there's so many horror movies on this list because they're so cheap to make, I guess. Okay, Night of the Living Dead. This is a zombie classic that's the gold standard model for low-budget horror movies. Shot in black and white with an unknown cast, but an incredible concept that still captures people's imagination today. It's one of the most imitated films of all time. And it's not just on my list of movies that made more than 100 times its budget at the box office. It could be on a list of movies that earned what? I don't know. I can't see. The prompter's not going. What's happening with that? It's bouncing. I can't read my words. Okay. It could be on a list of movies that made over 250 times its budget, because it was made for $125,000 and it went on to earn more than $30 million. $125,000 to $30 million. Take that, Apple. All right, how about this one? Rolling toward the end now. 1976, the movie Rocky. Sylvester Stallone would go on to be one of the biggest movie stars in the world, obviously. And the Rocky sequels would get so over the top that Rocky basically ends the Cold War in the fourth one. I mean, by himself. But back in the mid-70s, though, Stallone was a struggling actor. He wrote Rocky, hoping for the role himself. So first, ABC wanted it for a made-for-TV movie, but they wanted to hire writers to redo it. Stallone wasn't going to do that. So he took it to United Artists, which also wanted to make it, but as a vehicle for an established star. Stallone said he would star in it or nobody would star in it. The studio said, fine, but in turn only gave the film a budget of close to $1 million. Now cut to Rocky winning the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1976. It won Best Picture, and it made $225 million at the box office. So he made one of the most profitable movies of all time, and one of the most beloved movies of all time. It also launched two very successful franchises, not just the Rocky franchise, but the spin-off franchise, Creed. Add the Rambo franchise in there, which wouldn't have happened without Stallone holding on to star in Rocky, right? So $1 million for that first one, and not counting worldwide profits. I'm just giving you the domestic. I'm just giving you the United States profit. From that first $1 million film, those sequels and the Rambo franchise have generated, in American dollars, $2.4 billion. $1 million into 2.4 billion. Whew. And here's the last one. 1974. Benji. The Benji films were created by my buddy Joe Camp, who passed away a couple of years ago. Joe Camp wrote, directed, and produced the original Benji. This is in 1974. And he wrote and directed and produced most of its sequels. His approach was extremely unusual for the time. After being turned down by every major Hollywood studio. Now, Joe had completed the film. He did it in Dallas. And he completed the film and then took it to Hollywood and said, here it is, And every single movie studio said, no, 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 no. So he he financed the first one himself with his friends, but he marketed the thing himself. And he went to a guy in Dallas who owned a movie theater, and he said, sit down, I want you to watch this. So he sat down with him, and Joe and this guy alone in his theater watched this movie, and the guy said, we'll put it on our screen. And people were lined up around the block within a week to get into this movie. And so that kind of started it all, but they still never got any of the studios involved in it. He marketed it himself, produced it himself. He wrote it. So it cost $500,000 to make. And he had friends that put in money and everything. And Benji, after being turned down by every studio, Benji did $45 million at the box office. Now, of course, you math whizzes will calculate, wait, that's only 90 times the original investment. You said this was a list of 100 times. But remember, there were 4 sequels and a network television special. And that takes it way over the line. And because Joe is a friend of mine, I included it in this list. Okay, how many of those dozen movies do you think I have seen? 2? You think 2? You think 1? I'm trying to think over the list now. Run through that list real quickly for me, Matt. And you just run through it and I'll tell you yes or no. How about that? Okay. Mad Max. Never saw it. Super Size Me. Never saw it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Never saw it. Blair Witch Project. Never saw it. Halloween. Never saw it. Friday the 13th. Never saw it. American Graffiti. I saw it. Napoleon Dynamite. Never saw it. Paranormal Activity. Now, I gotta say, that movie made $250 million. I never heard of it. All right, so The Night of the Living Dead. Never saw it. Rocky. I saw it. And Benji. I saw it. So, 3 movies out of 12 I saw. Now, I admire the financial acumen of the people who can take something like that and turn it like that. But I am still against horror movies. Tammy Nance says Napoleon Dynamite is one of her favorite movies of all time. Well, there we go. There's our head writer. There's our communications director. And Napoleon Dynamite. John Mason Smith says, by the way, the furthest visitor ever at a Worship on the Water was from Australia. We were talking about that on the podcast today. At Worship on the Water, where we do a church service at at the Floribama. We have for 14 years. And John Mason Smith used to make the announcements, and he would give out a T-shirt to the people who had traveled the furthest to come to the church service. And I was telling Ben, our current pastor, I said, we don't do that anymore. And do you know why we quit? And he didn't know. And I said, well, the history of why we quit is every week we were giving the T-shirt to somebody from out of the United States. You could be from California. You'd be 2,000 miles away. You couldn't even get a T-shirt, And so the furthest was Australia, 10,000 miles. But I mean, we were giving shirts to people from Indonesia, shirts from people from Greenland, shirts from to people from Northumbria. And but if you're just from Wisconsin, if you're just from Idaho, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. You don't even get a shirt. Just buy your own, And so we quit doing it. Enid Merritt says, I don't like horror movies. Why? Roll it up. Are you rolling? Just quit working on this. And of course, I don't have anything to say if I can't read it. I don't like horror movies since the...
Well, you want me to just read it?
Yeah, what does it say?
Okay.
Oh, since The Exorcist.
Well, yeah, since The Exorcist, but then Serena said, me either, Enid. My cousin passed out in the bathroom and hit his head during The Exorcist.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I got to tell you, what's that little girl that starred in that? Linda... I can't remember what her name was. It was Linda. Huh?
Linda Blair?
Yeah, I think it was Linda Blair. But I mean that movie was on 150 years ago, and every time I see that girl, I've just seen pictures of her in that makeup, and I mean, how would you date somebody like that? If you were living in Hollywood, and Linda Blair had just starred in The Exorcist, and those pictures are everywhere, and her head's spinning around, and and she's saying stuff to the priest, and how would you go out with her in just hey, nice to meet you, Linda. What would you like to eat? I don't even know how you'd have it, because your mind would be going, ring, 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 ring. You're sitting across the table from her. Oh my God. And even if her head didn't spin completely around, you would think it had. You just imagine it. So, well, that's it for today. I've been fired up enough about these movies. We'll do something a little lighter for Thursday, but you guys have a good week, and no horror movies. One more thing. Austin, when he was like 6 years old, came home from next door where he had watched a movie with Mr. Dave and Miss Mary. You know what it was? Jaws. Yeah, Austin didn't sleep well for a while after that. And he was always looking in the pool very carefully before he went in. Heck, after seeing Jaws, I wouldn't get in the shower. All right, that's it. See you Thursday.